We were live.
Awesome.
Are we ready?
Yep.
So we'll call this meeting order, the working meeting with about the flat project. So who goes first here?
Should we do an intro?
Yeah, I think so. Let everybody
Yeah.
know who's here.
I'm Josh Obert. I'm the Public Works Supervisor for Broadwater County.
Mike Delger, Broadwater County Commission.
Daryl Folkford, Broadwater County Commissioner.
Debbie Randolph, Broadwater County Commissioner.
Carl Yakowicz with Great West Engineering. And who do we have with the BOR?
Charles Hewitt, Assistant Facility Manager at Canyon Prairie.
This is Morgan Kinnett. I'm a civil engineer based out of our Billings office.
And then it looks like Dan Gallagher.
Yeah, he had typed in. He didn't have a mic, but he could.
Yeah, Dan doesn't have a mic on his computer, so he has to type in.
Okay.
And then I thought Dan Strumko was on as well, but it looks like he's still connecting to.
All right. Well, should we go ahead and get started, and Dan can connect, keep trying to connect here or chat, send us a chat message on concerns or issues that we might be able to help him with.
I'll run down and see real quick.
Okay.
I'm on now.
Oh.
All right. Do you guys want me to just kind of walk through things here? Okay. This is
Yeah,
Carl.
that'd be best so we know what we're doing.
Okay, Carl with Great West Engineering. We're the on-call engineer for Broadwater County, and so we received the email that was forwarded to us, and thought a meeting to get everybody kind of pull everybody on the same page to discuss scope and some of the flap intricacies of the project. And Charles, was it yourself that sent initial email to Daryl?
I think it might have been Dan Gallagher.
Was it Dan?
Yeah, I think Dan Gallagher did.
Okay. All right. So yeah, the Federal Lands Access Program is it's a grant funding program that counties are able to utilize to fund roads and bridges that access federal properties. And we've worked with a couple counties. We're working with a couple counties this cycle on flap applications. So the flap application opened up a couple weeks ago, and those applications are actually due April 1st of this year. So quite a bit that kind of goes into an application. There's the actual narrative, a cost estimate, a brief environmental section as well. So there's a little bit of process, but yeah, with the silos recreation area master plan kind of serves as a good foundation if a project is developed with the silos roads. And Dan or Charles, maybe if you guys want to give us your vision on what you were thinking would be, were you guys thinking the main silos access road that the county is responsible for, or other portions of the silos master plan project? What was your guys' vision?
I think we were kind of thinking whatever we could get money for to improve those roads and work on those roads. So however it was applicable, to meet the needs of the master plan. And I'm pretty new to the FLAP program, so I don't know a lot of the ins and outs about that. That's why we invited Morgan into the chat, because she knows a lot about that. We were hoping any of the road improvements, especially like the major ones, that we could maybe tackle with the FLAP.
Okay. So I guess maybe one of the questions is, can the FLAP funding be used inside the BOR property? Or is it just from, in this case, from Highway 12 down to the BOR property line? We don't like to have that question answered.
This is Dan, Strumka, I think we know it can be used probably from the highway down to the entrance. But when we talked with the FLAP coordinators, there was a potential that maybe some could be used for the main roads within there.
Okay.
I'm not 100% sure. I guess I know Dan Gallagher kind of checked some of that out. I think that's what they said, that we could put in a request for it, and I guess just see what happens. But I don't know if Morgan or Dan, if you guys could chime in on that.
Yeah, so the land itself can be either federally owned or county owned for the road itself. The main piece of that is if it's on reclamation land and it's a reclamation owned road, it cannot also be reclamation maintained. So if it's a road that the county is maintaining, then it can be included. That makes
What
sense.
about within the facility, within silos, Morgan, where we have the main road in there that, is kind of within our campground, it's our property, but it's a managing partner where it goes to the county is and basically doing all the O&M.
Mhm. So in that case, it would be eligible because the county is the partner there.
Okay,
Okay.
that's what they were saying. So.
Okay. Good.
Yeah, looking at the FLAP, requirements that they issued, it says title or maintenance responsibility must be vested with state, county, or local government.
Okay.
That fits.
And so that would mean the main access road, of course. Just so I'm aware, which other routes are maintained by the county?
I'm thinking maybe that went with this. I think what they were talking about with Daryl and stuff was maybe the some of the stuff off the master plan, where we could potentially maybe even put in some new roads for the camping, the recreation area, the Silos recreation area.
Right.
Yeah, I think we were thinking along the lines of that north-south road that would connect everything.
Yeah, and that I think the roads were part of first phase, right?
Yeah.
Of this plan.
The road, on phase one, it was just the roadway from the highway down to the BOR, I thought, and then phase two was interior roadways.
Okay.
Yeah, so the master plan estimate for phase one has a total of about 2.7 million.
And this is Josh Obert with Public Works again. So the road connecting from the highway down to the campground is currently a milled surface. It's one of the nicer roads that we have in the county right now, and we have an upcoming road project on the highway that we're going to be getting additional milling in, and we had already kind of planned on doing a 2-inch milling top on that. So at $2.7 million to pave it, are we going to be getting a substantially more worthwhile product to use any of the funding on that phase one from the highway down? For significantly cheaper, you could chip seal over top of the millings and have a very similar roadway for a fraction of the cost.
for the one going from the
highway to the
down
boundary.
the entrance, the other one we'd have to.
That one would be,
reserve for-
yeah, that would be all new construction inside the BOR boundaries.
Right, and I mean, you could still do construction and still put millings down on that. I mean, that's what they have on West Shore Drive up here, and it's holding up very well as well on the main chip seal that, so, I mean, that could be a way to stretch the money out, and they could put that as a recommendation.
It depends on what portions of it you'd want milled. The amount of millings we're gonna get wouldn't be anywhere near to cover enough of the interior roads that are planned in the Silos Master Plan, so you'd have to have a pretty clear-cut area that you were wanting to use and do the 2-inch topping layer from the highway down.
Yeah,
But-
and it might be something that we put in for, and maybe we have to see if there's some other places, or, you know, really with these flap grants, they're probably, Morgan, correct me if I'm wrong, but, you know, we're probably talking 2 to 3 years out before they get the funding.
And the road construction project's 2 years out now, correct? That's where, we're 2 years down the line before that even happens, so it would be tail end of the second year by the time we got millings.
Yeah,
But
a lot of the projects from the last cycle, from the 2016 cycle, are still under design, you know, so it could be a lot longer than that. So we've seen 5 years at a minimum from application to construction.
Carl, you'd mentioned the FLP program. Would that be any more beneficial than a flap for work inside the BOR boundary?
Well, from what I understand, yeah, work within the BOR boundary, there's FLTP funding that may be eligible, and so that funding is different than FLAP. But it can.
It is, there's less, you got more money in flap, from what I understand. And we could, I mean, we can also put in for that kind of funding for other stuff within there. There was something that, I guess with the, you know, you're talking about though, these are, when was the Goose Bay Road? When was that put in for? You guys know that? Because that one's just that's supposed to be coming out this year, so.
Yeah.
That was
yeah,
in
that's 5
2016.
years.
Yeah, it's our understanding of the FLTP funding can be used for match for the FLAP funding, though.
Oh, okay. That would be us putting into that.
Mm-hmm.
We could do that. No guarantees. I mean, it's a little thinner, so sure try.
I guess my biggest question was to find out whether everybody thought that, you know, with a $2.75 million price tag from the last estimate to pave from the highway down to the BOR boundary, if people feel that that's a worthwhile endeavor, since we have a milled surface there. It is listed as phase 1 on the Silos Master Plan, but would it be more beneficial to move towards phases 2 and beyond, or is there a substantial need in driver to pave from the highway down?
Is the master plan, does it have that paving from the highway down, or are you talking about the interior, the north-south?
It has,
I thought on the master plan it was just the interior, it wasn't talking about the road out to the highway.
That's how I read it.
yeah. Phase 1, primary access roadway. So it says construct new paved access roadway. So,
I guess it wasn't clear-cut defined to me whether an access roadway to me would be the main trunk road leading up to the Silos recreation area.
that's how I believe it is.
The access road that I think we're talking about in the master plan is within the boundaries of the silos.
Okay. I'm good with that then. I just couldn't see spending a very significant amount of money to upgrade one of the better roads that we have in the county at that price tag.
We were told at one time though that that road from the highway down, there was definitely, maybe maybe need to be rebuilt or reworked a little bit, maybe just top coated or something like that. And so that's where we brought up the flap was a potential to help us defer some of those costs.
And if we didn't know that this upcoming highway project, that we would get a significant amount of millings to be able to put the top coat on, then I'd say there would be, justification to add that in. But with us being able to secure about 5 miles worth of millings, I was kind of struggling with including that portion in it, knowing that we were going to get millings within 2 years to be able to do that top layer on there.
Yeah, because that road coming off the highway, it stopped by and measured it up, and it is 24 to 26 foot top width, existing milling width on it. So it's got pretty good width. Shoulders on it are a little steep. So we're looking at we're looking at these new access roads specifically, and so in order to be eligible, maintenance responsibility would need to be county if they were built. Is that something commissioners are comfortable with, or probably need some type of MOU in place just to demonstrate that maintenance responsibility as part of the FLAP application?
We have a contract right now, which should be, at this point, should be justification to show that the county is the county and or their concessionaire or the maintenance people. And whatever else is needed, I guess we can help out with.
All right.
It's something you guys discuss without us too, if you want. I mean, if this is something you'd rather talk about, because I know that we're looking at, there is some talk about revisiting the contract too, which could skew some of this as well, so.
All right, and then this funding, the FLAP funding is also eligible for trails in some facilities, as I understand it as well. Would the focus, do we want to keep the focus on this north-south access road? You're allowed to apply for up to 5 million. Now, I believe there's only 16.5 million available this first cycle. So it's a very competitive program still. And we have the 13.4% match too.
Mm-hmm.
So if we took the millings from the highway and the millings from Silos Road, would they cover the interior roads that we're trying to get paved inside the campground itself? Because if they want to rebuild the Silos Road, we might as well mill that road and put it into the campground, and plus the millings from the highway, we take care of the campground, and then we can go back to the fund on the silos, or if that's what they want to do is rebuild the road. Because in reality, that road probably has to be wider, because by the time you get 2 pontoon boats on there, each one of them are running a wheel in the gravel. And the amount of traffic on there, I'm not so sure that you're not going to end up with some turn lanes in there off some of them residential roads.
Yeah, what about pedestrian use along that road too? I mean, ideally, I think that you want 2 4-foot shoulders as well. And so that puts you're coming from a 24 to 26 foot wide top width to 32 feet. So quite a bit more widening. We'd also have to look at right-of-way, whether or not there is enough easement for right-of-way in place. There's also those power poles right on the south edge too. We may need to relocate south power poles as well.
And most likely that right of way is all gonna have to come off on the south side. Because of the proximity of buildings and stuff that people have on the north side. So that's gonna all become, that's BLM ground.
Okay.
I think like you said, Commissioner Delger, if you decided to go that route and use the flap to improve the roadway and we remilled the existing road plus the millings that we got off of the highway project, you'd at least be able to do your feeder road, your north-south main feeder road and millings. It'd be pretty close. I mean, you're looking at 6.5, a little over 6 miles of millings that you'd be sitting on. But by the time you build up a good road base and you make a structure last, you'd be able to do your north-south road.
Is that pile of dirt that we have down there enough dirt to make that base?
I'd have to take a good look at it again. I know Carl did ask, we don't have to permit, or I did ask Carl, we don't have to permit for a gravel pit since it's all surface. So we could crush down there. But most likely the best gravel base or road mix gravel base we have is in Lone Mountain Pit right now.
Carl, what did you say the match was? I missed that number.
13.42%. So if we're just looking at the main access road, I mean, that's $1 million, so 130,000 just for the main access road.
We can use like-in-kind labor on that as well to a point, correct?
You can. They did indicate this cycle, they prefer cash match. So you may not rank as well. And if we're trying to leverage this funding with FLTP funding, the VOR is applying for some of the interior improvements, the campground area. I don't know if they consider that as a cash match, but that could be counted as your match there. What is the schedule on that FLTP program? When would we have a little bit more knowns as far as eligibility or what could be funded with FLTP?
I don't know what, Morgan, you know what that is?
Yes. So FLTP or reclamation, the call for projects usually opens around May of each year, with selections made usually in July or August. So it would be after applications are due on that flap funding.
So for the flap application, we'd probably want, a letter indicating the intention of applying for that FLTP funding, if that's the direction we go. We probably also need to present a backup plan for the match. I mean, be a county responsibility, whether that would be in kind materials or cash. That's the question.
I would also point out that previously the flat program as a whole has had some issues with in-kind allowances as the match. So they're currently saying as of December 2020 that in-kind allowances typically not allowed include labor, equipment, materials, force account work, or any work done prior to execution of agreement with FHWA.
Yeah, they're definitely discouraging at this cycle. So if we are looking at redoing the main route and then the full north-south, I would guess, yeah, we're probably in that 3 million range. And then that would, so the match would be what, 400,000?
And that was my overall concern when you're already looking at a road that, even though it may not be as wide as what we hope for right now, it is one of the nicer roads we have in the county. And knowing that we are going to get more millings coming in, it seemed like quite a bit of money, that like in kind money, to upgrade one of our better roads. If there was a safety issue where they were worried about pedestrians there, or if there's a safety issue with 2 pontoon boats going by, yeah, you can understand and start to you can wrap your mind around that a little bit. But when you look at $400,000, if the purpose is just to upgrade the roadway, I was having difficulties kind of making that make sense to me. But, like I said, that's why I'm not a commissioner.
I'd prefer not to put a dime into it myself.
Well, and that's the great part about this milling project we have coming up. It's no cost to the county. We can upgrade and put a top coat on it. You can chip seal it for about $20,000, which is much cheaper than even the $1 million you look at for just the 3/4, the 1 mile section of road to the BOR boundary. It's at a much reduced cost and still get another 10 to 15 years life cycle out of that roadway.
How much could we add to that road without having to acquire right away?
Well, I'll lean on Carl for that one.
Width-wise, I mean.
We'd have to take a closer look at it out there and maybe even pull some deeds to see where that right-of-way is. I mean, it appears there's 60 foot out there, just based on looking at the fences. I don't know which way it's crowded, though. So those power poles are kind of crowded on the north side, on that shoulder. There is a little room on the south side. So you could probably get, a couple feet out of it at least. It's always best practice to shallow up your slopes coming off to a 3-to-1 or 4-to-1 too, just from a safety perspective. But we would have to just kind of run out there and take a look at it to see how much more width we could get. Probably pull the deeds to make sure we do have 60 feet.
If you were to take that thing and say widen it a foot, 18 inches on each side, and then fill that with millings, and then put your top coat over that and seal it, would that joint fusion hold up, or is that not a good idea?
It's gonna probably break down, over time, unless you sealed it up with like a chip seal, something fairly substantial. It might be an option.
Well, and that's what I was saying. Roughly what I was seeing is you're about $20,000 to do a chip seal on it, and that would help hold it together quite a bit better. Similar to what we're kind of hoping to do on Muffley down to Winston.
Yes, Dan, I need to jump off to another meeting with Chuck in the morning, and then I can probably answer anything you need. Thanks.
Thanks, Dan.
I guess what the big question is, what's the overall plan, or was the goal of the, I mean, for BOR standpoint, you said that you wanted to work on infrastructure inside the SRA. Does that sound like something that the commission's interested in, or are you guys interested in working on the access to the BOR?
Well, I'll be honest. I mean, if it comes down to the county having to put $400,000 into a road that is a match, it's not even our property. I just don't see how we could ever justify that to our taxpayers. Just being brutally honest.
I completely agree. That's, right now, with other issues that we have, I don't see that happening.
You know, one thing about doing the roads inside is I would think that we could get some funding from the trust board since it's inside the campground area. They couldn't really participate on that on the east-west road, but they could possibly participate on the interior roads. I don't see asking them for $400,000.
Once again, on that estimate though, if you removed the east-west road and just looked at the north-south road, now you're down to roughly 2 million, a little under, judging by the estimate.
Yeah, I'd have to dive into it a bit more
Yeah.
because the estimate for phase one also has some facility improvements, like an entrance station building, a kiosk and maintenance building in there, and just try to break it out a bit more. But yeah, we just need to run some estimates on what that north-south route would be, or pull. Maybe those are included in the master plan here somewhere that we can pull out.
I think information like that would be very helpful for all of us, and especially the commission to, you know, it's hard to plan when you don't have exact costs, they have phase costs as they go through, but if there's a little bit of sticker shock on a whole phase, some of the costs, I mean, to be able to do just the north-south road, a feeder road that would set yourself up for the rest of the rest of the phase and the campground expansion, that'd be a worthwhile project.
Yeah, so in phase 3 or phase 2B, it's actually showing internal access roads at about 900,000 just for the construction cost.
When I saw that, that's why I thought phase one was solely just the access to the BOR, because when we sat down and looked, or when we had our meeting, Carl, it looked like all the rest of the interior access roads were in phase 2. So my initial question is with that large sticker for just the access to BOR, would it be more beneficial to skip to portions of phase 2 that's actually inside the BOR?
Yeah, I would agree with you there that's what I saw with phase 1. It appeared it was that main access road, plus that kiosk and miscellaneous buildings.
Carl, the breakdown that you're looking at, is that on the website?
Yeah,
For the
there's
master
this
plan?
appendix 9, which has the cost estimates.
Okay.
And so if you start, it's like phase 2B has 860,000
Oh, it's in
in
here.
camp
I don't think it's in here.
internal
is it?
access
No.
roads.
Okay.
And then phase 3 has another 800,000 in internal access roads.
I'll need to go online and print that off. Thank you. It's
Yeah,
not in the
so those
booklet.
are all just, it's showing them all as gravel access roads.
That's where you and I had talked about, basically a 6-inch base to on top of your, or a 6-inch gravel lift on top of a road base that's out there for the majority of the interior roads. And at 800,000, with the 13.4%, you're looking at roughly 100,000 would be the like in kind, or the match. But that's something, if they had the FLPT, they'd be able to help out, and then their trust board would be able to help out.
Yeah, and I would caution that, so the FLAP program requires you to put a 30%, I think it's a 30% contingency, and then they also, there's a $50,000 scoping fee that's added on, and so that 800,000 is easily gonna grow to, it could grow to 1.5 million.
So is the FLAP program, is that considered as a BOR's contribution, or is that a completely different program, and is there a contribution from BOR?
The FLTP program or the FLAP? So the FLAP program just stipulates 13.42% match is required, but they do allow the FLTP program to cover the match, and that's what we were kind of discussing. That would be up to the BOR if they want to apply for FLTP funding, and so yeah, that would eliminate a county match requirement.
But if I understand right, the FLAP is due April,
April.
and the FLTP is until May.
Yep.
So the timing is off.
Yeah, there'd need to be some timing worked out, maybe a letter of commitment. And so that match would be the commitment level of it. You might not rank quite as well,
Right.
because it's dependent on or contingent on FLTP funds. Morgan, what's the success in FLTP in the past? How likely would the BOR be to receiving funding for a project like this?
Well, I think it would generally rate pretty well. Reclamation as a whole gets a certain pot of money that's distributed internally via our FLTP application process. So we have done that before. We've had a handful of successful projects that were FLTP funding for flat projects. Typically, the FLTP funding has already been applied for and selected and secured before we apply for FLAP. So like you said, the timing, it may not rate as favorably as ones that already have that funding in place, but it's still an option, definitely.
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm willing to contact the FLAP folks and just check with them on how, if we do not have a firm commitment of FLTP funding, what that would do for the application. If that's the chosen approach for this project. And then Morgan, would BOR be willing to provide a letter of commitment, prior to our April 1st for an application indicating that Reclamation would be applying for the FLTP funding to help strengthen the FLAP grant?
I think that we could. That would probably either come from Dan Stremka or our area manager. Chuck, did you have something to add?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think we'd be on board with that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I would
And
say.
something like that, probably, yeah.
Go ahead.
Something like that would probably have to either be signed by Dan Stremka or the area manager.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it shows like, hey, we're working with you guys, you're working with us to improve the area.
Yeah, definitely. I think in general, this would be a fairly strong application because of the master plan work that's already gone in. You have all the public comment that was received. You have this, the master plan document shows the planning process that was followed. So I'd say in general, this would be a fairly strong LAP application because of the background of the prior work. So maybe what we do is take a little closer look at the estimates for that north-south road and try to get an idea on how much we're looking at.
Well, I think if you come up with a figure that everybody's comfortable with as the max that we want to look for, and then if that north-south road is, like you said, it could be $1.5 million on the 13.4. Now you're looking at about $200,000 in match. It would depend on what the average success rate that BOR would be able to generate on the FLTP. Would kind of, that would tell you what your ceiling is that you can shoot for without a significant match from the county. And that would kind of give you a better scope or idea of scope for projects you could hope for. And I definitely think that if you're talking with the flat folks to see if they would even consider a packet that has basically a promissory note, or as if they would even consider that. I mean, without knowing that, you're just kind of spinning your wheels.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can definitely reach out to FLAP, and then also, so the folks that score these applications, you've got the Western Federal Lands group, but also Eric Bryson and Mako. They're part of that ranking committee too. So we could also reach out to Eric Bryson.
I know for me, to move forward, I would like to see some numbers and a conversation, for you, Kyle, or to have a conversation, like you said, and just some more detail. Right now, we just don't have the numbers or ideas, or we have lots of ideas, just don't have some concrete numbers.
It'd be very difficult to be comfortable with giving a blessing on a project that you don't know the exact, or even a pretty detailed estimate on what the scope and the cost is.
Yep. Yeah, and there is, to prepare these FLAP applications, the typical cost is about $5,000 too, so there is that to factor in as well. They want you to complete a environmental review, complete some traffic projection totals. There's a narrative, it's about a 5-page application. We'll need to track down letters of support. The application process, I wouldn't say it's significant, but there's definitely quite a bit of info that goes in and work that goes into that application as well. It's not a quick one-page submittal. You also need final signatures from the reclamation manager, area manager.
So if the due date is April 1st, when are the selections announced? Do you know?
They did have a schedule that they proposed. I think it was in the June-July time frame when they make those selections.
So would a week to 2 weeks give you enough time to get some better information together, Carl?
Yeah, that would be enough time. Yeah, it's not going to take a lot to pull together some estimates and give you some better information to base a decision on.
So I guess the Commissioners, do you guys want to have another working meeting locally and kind of come to a consensus from your guys' standpoint, and then have a meeting with BOR afterwards, or do you want to have a meeting all together with BOR in a couple weeks?
Gosh, if this is due April 1st,
If Carl
I'm
can
looking
get
at
it,
calendar.
if he can get like a week from now, if you guys could have, I mean, if it would give you guys time to discuss the project and kind of come to a consensus on what you want, and then be able to meet with the BOR people to schedule another working meeting like this, and then
Yeah, I think that'd be the best way to go. Us have a working meeting and then after that have a meeting with BOR.
All right, well, we have, so Mako next week, maybe right around March 1st. We'll get estimates, give you some better numbers by then.
our commission meetings are usually Mondays at 10 o'clock.
Okay?
Usually, those afternoons are good for working, sometimes.
Mhm.
They seem to be working.
I'm available.
Yeah, I'm available that March 1st afternoon. Just let me know what time.
can be available whenever you guys need me to be.
Yeah.
All right. What time do you want to do it?
We do 1 o'clock,
1?
2 o'clock,
1
What
o'clock?
day?
March 1st?
Monday the
Monday? Does that work? Our commission meeting would be at 10. on
The Monday following Mako?
Yeah,
Okay.
Does
Yeah,
that work?
I'm good with that.
Okay.
works for me.
First of all.
Is that March 1st?
Yeah.
So for that north-south access route is a gravel surface, okay, for the county, or?
Well, I think that all has to be re-engineered. I think the current road right now is not where this road it really is gonna be. In that, your understanding?
It did look like it was moving because,
Yeah.
yeah. When I looked at the plans, especially it was because of the expansion of the campsites and how they were going to turn them, they were gonna move the roadway, existing roadway, so it would
Yeah.
be some demolition and some reclamation involved and,
Yeah.
but, I mean, the good news is the roadway that's out there is basically native ground. There's not a whole lot of the reclamation that would need to be done to it.
Yeah, we can estimate out a full new road section.
Mhm.
But is there a desire to have asphalt on that? I mean, long-term, there's always maintenance concerns with asphalt.
Yeah. I guess that would be the commission's. You'd be looking at quite a bit higher sticker shock
Yeah.
if you were to try to pave that length of road.
Well, I mean, the issue with the current road is the dust, right?
Correct.
So.
On that, and there's not much of a road there. It's more like a 2-track that's been driven on and not improved for.
Everybody laughs.
It,
Yeah, I think it would be nice to have it, millings or something on it, just like you said, to prevent that dust from basically blowing into every campsite there.
Yeah.
But you could always, in turn, you could always like mag chloride it or something like that instead, if it was just a gravel road. Just some ideas.
So the master plan shows that north-south road, basically from the north boundary to the south boundary. Would that be the vision for, or at least, is that where you want to start with this estimate? That amount of road?
That's basically the trunk road for all the phases of development, future, or all the future phases. I think there's, what, 9 phases to it?
Does the flat funding, sorry, I'm new, I'm all kinds of questions. On the flat funding, does that come up once a year? The grant process, or?
Yeah, so in the past, the last time they had an application cycle was 2016.
Oh, okay.
And previous to that, it was on kind of a 2-year time frame. But it sounds like now they're going to go more to a 5-year cycle. So yeah, it could be another 5 years before they have another call for applications.
Thank you.
I think some of that, the 2016 projects like we discussed, a lot of those are still in the works, getting off of the ground. Might have been some funding issues they had in that program. So there might not be another call for 5 years.
And with that north-south roadway, though, you look, there's multiple culverts that need to be installed within the roadway. It's quite a bit more than just the gravel work. There's several drainages throughout the whole thing that would have to, especially if we're moving the existing infrastructure road, it would require all new culverts for every drainage through there. But if it's on a 5-year cycle, and you have an opportunity to do the north-south feeder road for all of it, it may be a long time before you can pursue funding to do the other portion, or the other half of it if you chose to do half. I think there's a lot to think on for now until the next meeting, and then make some better decisions then when we have that'll give Carl some time to put together some numbers on the whole north-south feeder, a portion of it, and then it'll allow you guys to make a more sound, realistic judgment on what the 13.4 is going to end up buying you.
Yep. Okay.
So when do we want to meet with the BOR then, after we have that working meeting, the next day or sometime that week, or?
Probably. So Morgan or Mr. Is it Charles? Chuck, What time would you guys be able or available to meet after March 1st? Do you guys have any dates shortly after that that you'd be able to meet?
Looks like I'm open anytime.
Okay.
Same here. Looks like I'm open most of that first week of March.
So if we were to end up just contacting you in the next couple days when the commission firm up another day that they're open, that would work for you guys?
Yep.
Yes.
Perfect, thank you. Commissioners, you guys have any other questions, comments, concerns you want to address to Carl or BOR at this point?
I don't have anything else.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, well, thank you guys very much.
Thanks, Morgan, Chuck.
Thank you guys, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody watching? Is there anybody watching?
Okay, I guess we are adjourned.
That was, I'm glad they finally kind of detailed that out, because when Carl and I sat down, I was like, holy, I mean, they're calling for $2.75 million for phase one, and that was the feeder road